You've got companies you love, companies you hate, and then you have Palantir, and almost nobody truly gets it. So today, we're going to pull back that curtain. We're going to figure out how its biggest fans and its harshest critics are saying the exact same thing. So let's start with the bull case, right? You've got Dan Ives, one of the biggest tech analysts on Wall Street, and he calls them the Messi of AI. I mean, think about that. A once-in-a-generation talent that is just on another level. That's a pretty bold claim. But then you get this, and this is the crazy part. It's from Brent Hill, a guy who is known for being a skeptic and a bear on Palantir. His whole job is to find the problems, and he's the one saying Palantir is operating at a level, well, at a level we've literally never seen before in software. So what is going on here? Right there, that's the central puzzle of Palantir. You have to ignore the noise and just ask yourself, how can the biggest fans and the biggest critics both agree on the same basic thing that this company is a complete and total anomaly? Well, let's dig it out and find out. All right. Section 1, an unprecedented anomaly. Look, the one thing that everyone agrees on is that the old rulebook just doesn't apply to Palantir. So to really get what's happening, we need to understand why they break every single mold. First things first, you have to get this out of your head. This is not just another software company selling you a pretty dashboard. No, Palantir was born in fire, built for the most complex high-stakes environments on the planet. We're talking intelligence agencies, battlefields, you name it. And that DNA, that mission critical focus, it's created something different. It's less like a typical tech company and more like a whole new kind of digital institution. So what's the actual tech that makes all this possible? The operating system for AI. Because before we get to the absolute wild numbers, you have to understand the engine that's driving this thing. The key to everything is this one word, ontology. Now, forget the complicated academic definition. Just picture a huge organization. It's a total mess, right? You've got data over here, software over there. None of it talks to each other. What Palantir's ontology does is build a digital twin of that entire messy operation. It connects every single piece of data into one single unified map that makes sense of the chaos. Now listen, this is not about making fancy charts for some VP to look at once a quarter. This is about building an operational nervous system for the entire organization. It's what lets a nurse on the floor to see everything she needs to make a life or death decision right now. It's what lets a military commander see the entire battlefield in real time. It's a system for doing things, not just look at things. There's actually a great analogy for this that came out of the UK Parliament of all places. Think about it like this. Everybody and their brother is building these flashy AI models, right? Those are the sensors, the antenna, but what good are they? If they're stuck on the ground, they're useless. You need to get them into orbit to actually do anything. Palantir, they build the rocket and the satellite. They build the really hard foundational stuff that lets everyone else's AI actually work in the real time. And this all comes from their core philosophy. We're engineers, not academics. They're not interested in writing papers about AI theory. They are all about rolling up their sleeves and solving gnarly real-world problems. Their entire focus is on getting powerful tools into the hands of the people who are actually on the front lines doing the work. And that engineering-first, results-driven approach, while it's leading to some financial numbers that are so insane, so bombastic, as their CEO would say, that the entire industry has no choice but to sit up and pay attention. The numbers don't lie. So in the world of elite software companies, there's this key benchmark. It's called the rule of 40. Basically, you add your growth rate and your profit margin. Anything over 40 is considered excellent. To be clear, anything over 40 and you're pretty much a top tier company. Palantir's score, 94%. That's not just good, it's actually insane. Hypergrowth and massive profits at the exact same time. It shouldn't happen. And you know, for years, the big knock on them was, oh, they're just a government contractor. This number right here, it blows that argument out the water. 93% year-over-year growth in their US commercial business. That is just explosive acceleration. This is way, way beyond just spies and soldiers now. And get this, this isn't a case of one part of the business carrying the other, not at all. While that commercial side is rocketing up at 93%, their core government business is still growing at a ridiculous 53%. In the US. This is what analysts are calling their 1-2 punch business model. This is their secret weapon. Really. They've got two incredibly powerful engines firing at once. You have the super stable, predictable government business just churning out cash, And that solid foundation is what lets them pour fuel onto the fire for their commercial hypergrowth. It creates this resilience that frankly other software companies just dream of. But you want to know what makes these numbers almost unbelievable? They're doing it all with practically no traditional sales force. The CEO, Alex Karp, he just laughs at the old model of 1,000 steak dinners. At Palantir, the product itself is the salesperson. They get in there, deliver real value in days, not months or years, and just let the results speak for themselves. That incredible efficiency is what's fueling their jaw-dropping profits. But to really truly get Palantir, you have to understand the guy at the very center of it all, the CEO, Alex Karp. And let me tell you, this guy is not your typical Silicon Valley CEO. He's actually a philosopher by training, and his, let's call it, bombastic mission-driven vision. That is the absolute driving force behind this entire company. Karp does not mince words. He sees what they're doing as nothing less than an American revolution. The company's mission is unapologetically, openly pro-Western. Their stated goal is to give an unfair technological advantage to the US and its allies for these guys. It's not just business, it's ideology. And a huge piece of that ideology is how they think about AI. You know, everyone's worried that AI is going to come and take all the jobs. Palantir's whole mission is the exact opposite. They're focusing on augmenting human intelligence. It's about giving superpowers to the people doing the work, not automating them out of a job. And look, this isn't some corporate talking point. They give real concrete examples. We're talking about helping nurses spend less time on paperwork and more time with patients, enabling factory workers to build submarines faster and better, arming blue-collar workers with skills that make them invaluable. They even talk about turning casino workers into EV battery technicians. This is all about empowering the front lines, not just the PhDs in the data science lab. But that same mission is also what puts them right at the center of huge, intense controversy. And this brings us to what I call the Palantir Paradox. It's this place where incredible strategic advantage meets some really, really tough ethical questions. And this is what the paradox is. On the one hand, you have business results that are completely off the charts. That 94% rule of 40 score, the explosive commercial growth, huge military contracts. But you have deeply controversial work with groups like the Israel Defense Forces or US ICE. And it's that tension, that contradiction that fuels this non-stop debate around a stock that a lot of people think is priced for absolute perfection. Which brings us to the fundamental question, the one that everyone, investor or not, has to grapple with when they look at Palantir. Can a company be both a critical pillar of national security and a source of constant, intense ethical debate? Can those two things coexist? Alright, so when you put all the pieces together, the unbelievable numbers, the unique tech, Karp's vision, and the deep ethical paradox, you start to realize something. A bet on Palantir isn't just a bet on a stock. It's a bet on a very specific, very particular vision for the future. And if there's one thing you take away, let it be this. Palantir is not a bet on AI in some vague, abstract sense. It's a bet on operational AI. Their entire value proposition is about getting AI out of the PowerPoint slides and into the mud, into the most complex, high-stakes operations on the planet. It's a bet that the future will be won by whoever can actually make AI work. So the whole investment thesis, the whole bull case really comes down to three simple things. First, you've got the moat. We're talking decades of deep engineering work in the toughest environments. That's almost impossible to copy. Second, the engine, that durable 1-2 punch of government stability, fueling commercial hypergrowth. And third, the vision, a powerful, crystal clear mission that attracts a very specific type of talent and a very specific type of customer. And that brings us right back to where we started, to that weird puzzle of the critics and the fans sounding so similar, and now we know why. It's because both sides, whether they love the company or hate it, agree on one fundamental truth. There is no historical comparison for this company. They are truly in a category of one. When you combine their one-of-a-kind technology, their deep integration with governments and critical industries, and that unapologetic mission to create an unfair advantage, you have to ask yourself a bigger question. Is Palantir just building software, or are we watching in real time a company build the literal infrastructure of power for the entire 21st century? And the answer to that question, well, it's going to define a lot more than just Palantir's stock price. It might just define a piece of our future too.